What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the Speed to Dominate podcast. I'm your host, Coach Harper, and I'm so glad to be here with you today. As always, so happy to be here, man. First episode, man, you guys tapped in. I kind of told you a little bit of background about me, kind of where we're going to be taking this podcast. And, man, I couldn't be more excited about getting that first one out to you guys. So I hope you guys listen and you learned a little bit about me, kind of figure out, this podcast is something that's going to be for me. So just kind of recap what we're going to be doing here, man. I'm going to be talking about how we're going to get our kids faster. I'm going to be a thought leader in this space. I'm going to bring in a lot of people that's going to talk about the new, evolving, changing things so we can get some speed so we can dominate our sport. Right? We want to get the speed so we can dominate our sport. So whether you're a track and field coach, whether you are a baseball coach, a football coach, lacrosse coach, whatever coach you may be, basketball coach, you can learn from this podcast. You can learn how to, implement some of these things that's going to get your kids faster so you can dominate in your sport. Speed kills. Even the great Bear Bryant, football coach Bear Bryant, said that luck follows speed. So if we got speed and we're getting to it and we're faster than everybody, we can definitely dominate. All right. So today, guys, I'm going to jump into what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the 4 mistakes that your athletes are making that's keeping them slow. So what are the 4 things? I probably should have started with you're about to discover the 4 things, Anyway, I probably already did. So we'll see where that takes us. Anyway, there's 4 things that I call the recipe for success, right? So a lot of people might think that it is all these crazy training techniques, all of these just special drills, these special lifts that they need to do to get these kids faster, or just going out there and just going 110% sprints for 20 to 30 reps for 2 or 3 times a week, right? So you might think that's these crazy just things that you have to do, but actually over the last 14 years, guys, I've really boiled it down to a science, and there's 4 things. Okay, there's 4 things that's keeping your athletes from running faster. And those 4 things are arm swing, knee drive, foot placement, and body position. Arm swing, knee drive, foot placement, and body position. So those 4 things, those are the 4 things that's going to keep your kids running slow. That's going to keep your athletes running slow. So all we have to do, and like I said, I've come up with a Harper method, and in this method, I attack those 4 things. And I know a lot of you guys are probably saying, well, those are just normal 4 things. You still need to add X, Y, or Z to it. Yes, you still need to add a couple of things to it, but this is the baseline basics that can immediately get your kids faster. And why am I saying can immediately get your kids faster? Well, it's because I've had success getting kids faster in 2 weeks. Some of the kids that I've worked with, they immediately see a difference and they immediately get faster after even just 1 session. Some of the kids might take a week or 2, right? But one of the fastest that we've gotten somebody to actually get faster, and we got this kid 6 seconds faster, was in 2 weeks. I worked with a coach who's in Pennsylvania. After 3 weeks of using this program that I came up with, he was able to get his kids in the 400-meter dash to go 3 seconds faster. All right. Now, if you're a track and field coach, for a kid to go 3 seconds faster, it can happen over the course of a season. But in 3 weeks, that's really, really, really impressive for someone to drop that much time in only 3 weeks, right? It's because we focus on these 4 basic things. And when we focus on these 4 basic things and we plug them into the system that I've come up with, they see faster results. All right. And so arm swing, of course, you guys know that if we're not using our arms the correct way, then we are going to Like it's kind of like running without any arms. Like you look like a T-Rex if you try to imagine trying to run without any arms. Like how crazy would that look? Your arms are going to be those things that's going to help propel you along. It's going to bring your kids or push your athletes along the track, the field, the court. All right. And so a lot of times we don't really pay attention to the arm swing because we're like, hey, just pump your arms and go. But the biggest thing that I see kids or athletes making mistakes is that they like to drop their elbow, right? So I'm one of those 90-degree arm swing all the way through. And some guys like to drop the elbow. And dropping the elbow, guys, I'm telling you, is problematic. Dropping the elbow is problematic. Why? Because now you have to bring your arm down, extend it down, and then try to swing it back up, right? And then bend it again. So now what you're doing is you're contracting that bicep muscle. And when you contract that bicep muscle, they become more fatigued in the arms. Once the arms drop, if you're a track coach, you already know. Once the arm drops, guess what's going next? The knees are going to drop. And then once the knees drop, your strides are shorter, then you slow down, right? So it's very important to fix the arm swing. All right, body position. What is it in the body position? Now, a lot of the people with the body position, we do things to get our athletes to run with the correct body position because that's what we were taught. But nobody was teaching us the why behind why we need to actually have the correct body position. Well, the why behind why we actually need to have the correct body position is because when we have the correct body position, we are working with gravity, right? So nobody's probably really broken it down to you kind of like that. Like when you are running with the correct body position, what we're going to do is we're going to work with gravity instead of against gravity. We can't beat that God-given, law. It's a law. It's a God-given law that governs the universe, and it's called gravity, and we can't beat it. We have to play within the rules of gravity unless there is some type of anti-gravity system, which we haven't come up with yet. Or maybe we have come up with it, and maybe it's sitting in Area 51 and nobody knows about it, or maybe they've been using it and we just don't know about it. Any anti-gravity devices out there, That's another conversation for another podcast in another genre and go down that rabbit hole somewhere else. But we can't beat gravity. All right, knee drive. So with knee drive, as you guys know, we got to drive our knees like we're punching through a punching bag with our knee, right? Like we got a punching bag right in front of us, the big heavy bag, and we got to punch our knee all the way through it. And so it's how we need to bring up with the force to drive the knee up so we can get it up, and then we can get the leg out and then rotating back right up under our hip, attacking the ground right up under our hip. All right, and last but not least, our foot placement. Okay, here's what I'm going to say about foot placement, right? As I'm punching everything around me. Here's what I'm going to say about foot placement. There is this thing called ground reaction force, all right? And what ground reaction force simply means is whatever force that we give the ground is going to give us that same force back in the opposite direction. So if we're striking the ground, our athletes are striking the ground flat-footed. Or if you're noticing they're striking the ground flat-footed or they're striking the ground on their heel, that is going to do one of the things. That is going to actually put on the brakes, like we call it, putting on the brakes. That ground reaction is going to give a force back in the opposite direction. So if they're landing on their heels, right? If they land on the heels, that's kind of like at a 45-degree angle down at the ground. So what happens is the ground is going to give that same force back in the opposite direction at that 45-degree angle. That's going to be pushing back up into our body, which is going to cause us to basically put on the brakes or literally put on the brakes. Right? So it doesn't help us if we're trying to go forward if gravity or the ground force reaction, the forces of nature is pushing back against us. Again, we can't beat gravity and we can't beat the forces of nature. So what we have to do is we have to use what God has given us to our advantage by working with it and allow it to push us forward. So we can actually go faster without even adding any more strength or adding any more power to what we're doing, just by using what God has given us and using the forces of nature and using all of that stuff to the gravity to help pull us along. And so that is why I went through all of these things and really went through it with like a fine-tooth comb to figure out, how do we use this stuff to our advantage? And then how can we implement this into running to get these kids to go faster a lot quicker and a lot sooner? So that's what I've been developing over the last 14 years. And I've come up with the system to put that together. And it's called the Harper Method. And if you want to figure out what I'm doing as far as the Harper Method is concerned, man, you can definitely check out the show notes in this podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, down in the description, I've got a link to the Harper Method E-Book. So you can download that and see exactly what we're doing. And you can implement it in your programs, whether you're a college coach, whether you're a high school coach, whether you're a youth sprint coach. It doesn't matter if you're football, baseball, basketball, any of those things. It works for everything. Mainly, we're going to be talking to those track athletes, those track coaches, so you guys can get that, implement those things for the younger kids, especially with the younger kids on the younger level, so that you can start implement those things. And I'm telling you guys, it's going to revolutionize the way that you are training your kids. Now, you might say, hey, this is like normal stuff. We always do this type of stuff. But it's the principle and the science behind it that you need to use that's going to make all of the difference. And all that stuff is inside of the ebook. And man, I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on it so you can see what I'm talking about, and you guys can actually use it in your programs. All right, man. So with that being said, guys, listen, that's the thing. That's what we're going to end on today. And I hope that this helps someone. And like I always say, like I've always been doing, how I'm going to end this is, remember that everything that you do today affects your future. So remember tomorrow. I'm Coach Harper. I'll see you on the next podcast.